if you see me ever use imagery, you're gonna know that I'm using it not to just create, some sort of marketing gimmick, but I'm gonna use it so that I can actually have an honest discussion with people, like the one that I did on the Martyr, when I asked people about so-called Masons and Illuminati, and I said, listen, Masons are people that I've known many Masons in my life. They're people that are very well acquainted with the history of both Europe and Africa. As a matter of fact, one of the degrees is to study the Quran and realize the organizational capacity that it has for a society in restructuring the world when Europe lived in absolute chaos and darkness. I think that when we're discussing this, we can then take a step back and say, okay, well, if Masons understand the complex concept of European history and African history, they know that Imhotep from Africa, from Egypt, is the father of thought for Socrates. You know what I mean? Is the teacher, the master teacher, so to speak, for Greek civilization. Then how can you tell me that you really believe that black people are 3/5 of a man? That 3/5 of a human being, that you're a monkey, that you're the missing link, you're the de-evolved version of white people. You obviously didn't believe that. You just needed an excuse to take them, to steal them so that they would build America for you. And in that sense, you created racism yourselves. Because if you had just said what Rome and what the Arab Caliphate and what medieval Europe did, which is, you know what, you lost the war. That's why you're a slave. We don't need an excuse to take you. We don't need anything to come get you, but you made up these religious lies. You made up legal lies. We weren't allowed to, America was a real democracy until you gave everybody the right to vote. So how did we get to this point where you're now telling me that, this was a great mistake that was made? How did you not know that these people were the same thing as human beings? Were the same human beings, and that we're all the same human beings? In my opinion, I think that they always knew, and they just made up these excuses so that they could get the free labor. Now, to some people, they're like, oh, well, obviously technique. Well, I'm glad you know that. Now go out and teach people. If you already know everything I've said now, then you shouldn't be watching this video. You should be out teaching people so they don't fall into the sand trap.
But that's Drake rapping. When he raps, he's one of the best, dog. Like, he says shit I've never heard before.
You don't. Like, I can't go in somebody else's house, and even though they let me wear their clothes and eat their food, that's not my house.